Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
Welcome back to Outlaws and Gunslingers with your host Bang and Dang back again. And you guys are listening to the number one true crime podcast out there in America. Don't look that up. Don't look at the charts, but it is. Take our word for it. Today we're covering the Glenville shootout, which I don't know if anybody knows. I bet you 90% of people listening to this don't know of it. And the shootout, definitely probably not, but maybe the riots afterwards, which transpired because of the gun battle. But interesting stuff going on here. Of course, it's in 68, which anybody knows in the 60s, particularly 68, so many race riots and riots were taking place then.
Yep, especially in the old Rust Belt area.
And yeah, everywhere. So in this one, in the old Rust Belt of Cleveland, July 23rd to the 24th, the shootout occurs on the 23rd, and then the riot goes into the 27th of July.
Of course.
Between Cleveland police and a black power group known as the Black Nationalists of New Libya.
Okay.
And bunch of wounded, couple dead, and like I said, sparks the riot. So we're going to get into that. Good stuff going on here. Different than the mass shootings or siege that we've been covering lately.
Right.
City of Cleveland suffered a significant loss, as did so much of the Midwest at this particular time of heavy industry beginning in about 1950, which led to markedly higher unemployment. Yes. Meanwhile, large numbers of African Americans left the deep South during the Second Great Migration, right? They all came up here. As with the Second Great Migration, Cleveland saw a significant influx of blacks who mistakenly believed the city was still the source of good jobs. How they mistakenly did that, but
they're like, well, maybe Detroit, let's go.
But racial segregation and racially discriminatory housing practices left most African Americans able to find housing only in the city's eastern neighborhoods,
Obviously.
also known as the ghettos or the projects, or whatever they built for them. You know, the number of residents living there jumped from 150,000 in 1950 to 250,000 in 1960. Holy. Among the changing areas was the Glenville neighborhood. In 1950, it was overwhelmingly white, middle class, and Jewish. 10 years later.
Wait, the city of Cleveland had 250,000 people?
Yep.
Wow.
Church still has over 150 now.
Think so?
Yeah.
As these residents began migrating into Cleveland's far eastern suburbs in the 1950s, single white family homes were turned into rentals. No, single family homes were turned into rentals, and thousands of African Americans
legitimately thought it said single white family homes. Oh wow!
And thousands of African Americans they moved in.
Yep.
By 1960, Glenville was overwhelmingly black and poor.
It's crazy, dude.
Most people in Glenville also lived in crowded, substandard housing. That's the word. Quite often, single-family homes in Glenville were subdivided into 4 or more apartments. Jeez, Pete. Each of these accommodated a large extended family.
You're literally talking about a one-bedroom apartment.
Right. Ridiculous. Racial tensions in Cleveland were heightened as the city began busing African-American children to all-white schools.
Yeah.
In order to racially desegregate its schools and to reduce overcrowding in minority-majority elementary schools. Black parents were outraged when they discovered that their children were not eligible to participate in arts, sports, and after-hours activities. Wow.
Crazy.
Like, sorry, not after hours.
Right.
Especially not after hours.
We don't want you we don't want your kids spending any time more than necessary with ours, okay? January of 64, the United Freedom Movement, a coalition of black civil rights groups, decided to march on the Murray Hill School in the city's Little Italy neighborhood. When city leaders learned that local white residents intended to stop the march, they feared a riot would break out.
Did they just not say where it was? Little Italy? Come on. You're going to want these guys to go to a bunch of Italians out there? I don't think so. What Italians call black people?
Lots of things.
Yeah, that wasn't a very good idea.
Well, the black civil rights groups were persuaded to cancel their protests in fear of riots, but the white mob still formed. And throughout the day on January 30th of 64, white citizens threw rocks and bottles and assaulted any African-American person they found on the streets. Crazy times, dude. Like, come on. Are white people that uncivilized that they're just throwing shit at people?
Italian white people are, yes.
Crazy. Cleveland police made no arrests because, of course, why? Cleveland's Black Power movement grew substantially in 64 and 65 as African-American residents viewed the Murray Hill riot as a symbol of their powerlessness. They said, we have no power in the city. Nobody's listening to us. They're treating us like animals. This is ridiculous.
Well, that despair bred to extremism and violence. White and black gangs formed in adjacent Superior Sowinski area, just west of Glenville. Physical assaults and gang wars occurred in broad daylight in the spring and the summer of 1966. July 1966, the week-long Hugh riots occurred throughout much of the northeast Cleveland area. Racial tension in the city worsened in the aftermath of these riots. Of course it did. I mean, I don't think it would have gotten better. A number of arsonists burned buildings. Several stores were looted in the Hugh neighborhood, the center of the riot.
I think it's Huff.
Right.
Huff.
Hough. Sorry, I'm not from frickin' Ohio. Anyway, that was during the spring of 1967. Although many of the local and national media believed Cleveland was headed for another summer of violence in 1967, local African-American anger appeared to be channeled politically instead. African-American state legislator Carl Stokes, unseated incumbent and white mayor Ralph S. Locher, I don't know.
One of them.
In the Democratic primary. Wow. Look at that shit. And went on to win the majority.
Or the mayoralty.
Right. Went on to win the mayor against the white Republican attorney Seth Taft.
Wow.
In November of 1967. Fantastic. Good for you, Ralph. Not Ralph. Good for you. What was his
Carl?
name? Carl Stokes.
Carl. Yeah, obviously a little background on old Cleveland, how the stuff is shaping up right here. Meanwhile, we got a guy named Fred Evans who is about to get, what's the word for it?
He's about to get postal.
He's about to get indoctrinated by all this stuff going on. Fred Evans, born in Greenville, South Carolina in 1931. His family moved to Cleveland in 43.
Okay.
Evans dropped out of high school and enlisted in the United States Army in 48. First served in the Korean War.
Second mistake.
He won several medals for meritorious service.
Fantastic.
After suffering a severe injury when a bridge he was helping to build collapsed.
Oh, geez.
He was discharged in 1952.
I sure hope so.
He drove a city bus for 2 years, then re-enlisted in 54.
Oh, shit. How?
Well, he then struck an officer and was court-martialed. Sentenced to 2 years hard labor and a dishonorable discharge.
Wow.
Sentence was later reduced to undesirable discharge.
Right.
And he left the Army after just 7 months. Well, undesirable is way better than dishonorable.
Right. I'll take that, I guess.
Army physicians had concluded that his 1952 injuries had left him with migraines, partial disability, epilepsy, and personality disorder.
How did they let him back in the first place?
I don't know. He now suffered from severe rage issues,
obviously,
which he was unable to control, and that this in part led to his confrontation with the senior officer that we're about to explain coming up. Evans returned to Cleveland and worked, we already explained that he punched his officer.
Right.
He returned to Cleveland and worked as a menial laborer for the Pennsylvania Railroad.
Oh, geez, even worse. You don't want to work for railroad.
Especially not for that monopoly guy.
Yeah. Jeez. After seeing what he believed to be a UFO in the early 1960s, a lot of people were seeing UFOs then.
Yeah.
Evans turned to astrology for spiritual guidance. After his astrological mentor was hospitalized for insanity in 1966. Oh, geez.
That could have been the sign, hey, guy, don't listen to this guy no more.
What's going on here? Evans adopted the first name Ahmed, began wearing bark garments of African design, began preaching an increasingly militant form of black nationalism. About 1964, around 1965, he joined a group calling itself the Black Nationalists of New Libya. He opened the Afro Culture Shop and bookstore on Superior Avenue in Cleveland, which drew the attention of local police because it often served as a gathering place for young black militants, obviously. The police closed this store 3 times in 1967. Sanitary violations, but Evans felt this was to pretense to harass him. He was like, this is just for you guys to have a way in.
You know what you're doing.
Right. Evans assaulted African-American patrolman James Payne. April 1967. At least he was smart and did a black guy.
Right. March of 67, the Wall Street Journal reported that Evans had... Why are they reporting on him?
Right.
March of 67, Wall Street Journal reported that Evans had predicted that the United States would be consumed with violence on May 9th of 1967. Although the media ridiculed Evans after his prediction failed to come to pass, Evans' status among local African Americans soared. May 1st, 1968, Mayor Stokes announced that he was forming a $1.5 billion fund named Cleveland Now to completely redevelop the city of Cleveland within a decade.
Hey, good for him.
Money for the effort would be contributed by business, private foundations, the city, the state, and the federal government.
Yeah, like we're going to do some shit around here.
We need to lift up the city of Cleveland.
Cleveland Now focused on job training neighborhood and housing rehabilitation, education, young development, health,
youth. Same thing, right?
Yeah, young. Yep. Health, welfare reform, and downtown revitalization. A significant number of grants were made immediately available to a wide range of neighborhood groups to help build civic pride, reduce racial tension, help end poverty, and for other aims. Others. Ahmed Evans applied for and received $10,300 grant from the city to help local youth learn African arts and crafts.
Oh, look at him.
Fantastic.
Well, about 2:30 p.m., though, on July 22nd, 1968, Cleveland City Council member George L. Forbes and Mayor's Council on Youth Opportunities Director Walter Beach met with Cleveland Police Inspector Lewis Coffey at the Cleveland City Hall.
Okay.
Coffey said that the FBI had given the Cleveland police information that Ahmed Evans and his new Libya group were stockpiling weapons at Evans's home at 12312 Auburndale Avenue.
That's a hell of an address.
Made up. This is something you see on like a mock credit card application or something.
Or a phone number is always 555, no matter where.
Auburndale Avenue, that is, in Glenville, in preparation for assassinating several prominent African Americans, including the mayor, and instigating a general uprising on July 24th.
Oh, geez, where did the FBI get this info?
The FBI just comes swooping in, huh?
Right.
Do we have any evidence that the FBI haven't talked to this guy already?
Right, not yet, huh? Right. I hope it comes around to that.
Right.
The police expressed doubt about these reports, as the sole source information was a paid FBI informer who was not a member of Evans's group. He wasn't even a member. And who seemed under the influence of illegal narcotics, which he probably was.
Yeah.
However, police subsequently...
Are they illegal if the FBI was giving it to him?
Sure. However, police subsequently discovered that black nationalists had been seen at a local department store the morning of the 22nd of July, inquiring about high-powered rifles, purchasing bandoliers of ammunition, and first aid kits at an Army Supply Plus store.
Wow.
But it was unclear if these men belonged to Evans's group.
Well, it's a pretty good chance. And even if they don't, you probably want to investigate these guys anyways.
Right. Furthermore, Evans was angry. He had just been told by his white landlord that he could no longer rent space for his Afro culture shop and bookstore. And he had been served with an eviction notice to vacate the premises on the morning of July 22nd.
On the morning of the same day, the FBI just happened to say, hey, I think this guy's going to do something. At the meeting with Forbes and Beach, the police decided that a roving surveillance of Evans's home should be implemented.
Right.
Forbes and Beach also agreed to speak with Evans in an attempt to calm him down and the attempt to address his grievances.
Right. I mean, smart.
Right. 6 p.m., July 23rd, Forbes and Beach drove to the Afro Culture Shop and Bookstore at 11105 Superior Avenue. Ooh, even Superior Avenue, huh? To see him. Not finding him there, they drove to Evans's apartment at 12312 Auburndale Avenue and were surprised to discover that the Cleveland police had, in fact, established a stationary surveillance around Evans's home. Why are they surprised?
Right.
One unmarked car with white officers sat on Lakeview Avenue between Moulton and Auburndale, and another with white officers sat at the intersection of Auburndale and East 124th Street. Anytime you're near cities or streets that have numbers, it's not a good neighborhood.
No, never.
They didn't even care enough for those streets. Like,
right.
We're just going to number them.
Numbers.
Right.
7:50 p.m., Forbes and Beach arrived at Evans's home. They talked with him for about 15 minutes.
At least I talked.
Right. During which Evans expressed his anxiety about the police and his concern that he was going to be harassed again.
Literally, there's 3 dozen of them out there probably.
Guys, I'm sick of it, man. I'm sick of it. Forbes attempted to have the stationary surveillance removed, but was advised by the city's safety director, James McManaman, to speak with Mayor Stokes. He's like, why don't you just speak with the mayor? And maybe we can come with some kind of terms here. Forbes reached out to Stokes, but Stokes was interrupted by another call and asked Forbes to call him back in 15 minutes.
Oh, that could have been the whole difference.
During this time, Forbes drove to the home of Harlel Jones, an Evans associate. While speaking with Jones, they learned that the shootout had begun.
Already. See, Evans was already probably even more irritated with these guys showing up. Right. Now he found those cops sitting. I mean, jeez. Well, it's not clear whether the police or the black nationalists of New Libya opened fire first.
It's not clear.
Probably sure they know.
Right.
However, most press outlets stated that the black nationalists of New Libya initiated the gun battle.
I'm sure they did.
According to police, shortly after Forbes and Beach left at 8:05 p.m., an African-American man with a carbine emerged from Evans's house and stood guard.
Okay, that's fine.
A few minutes later, well, not if it's a legal weapon.
Right, it's true. So it's not fine.
A few minutes later, Evans and about 16 others, all of them heavily armed and wearing crossed bandoliers of ammunition, emerged from the house.
Okay.
Jeez, Army. The guard crossed the street and aimed his gun at the unmarked police vehicle sitting at Auburndale and East 124. The surveillance radioed for instructions, and at 8:20 were told to flee the area.
Damn right.
Get the hell out of there.
Why are you guys still sitting
Right,
there?
like, why'd you even call this in? Get out of there and then call it in.
Right.
Dummy.
Jeez, Pete. Well, the police vehicle turned right onto East 124th, followed by a station wagon.
Oh, no. They got 8 people in there.
The police claimed they heard a shot. The other police vehicle also fled the scene, turned right, which is south onto Lakeview Avenue. The police in this car also said they heard several shots. Cleveland police car number 604, a marked vehicle at 123rd Street and Beulah Avenue, broadcast reports of shots fired at 8:24 p.m.
Huh.
A radio broadcast over the police radio alerted the second surveillance vehicle to the shots fired at the tow truck. When it came within view of the tow truck, police say they saw the tow truck driver running from an armed man.
Huh.
Then 2 snipers behind the tow truck fired on the unmarked police car, hitting its hood, grill, and windshield.
Wow.
The police returned fire, emptying their weapon ammunition magazines.
Wow.
The police vehicle then fled north on 123rd. All 4 of its tires shot out. Dang.
Jeez, dude. The tow truck was there because apparently around noon of that day of the shooting, call was made to the Cleveland police reporting an abandoned vehicle on Beulah Avenue between East 123rd and Lakeview. Location was just a block north of Evans's home. Vehicle was ticketed at 125, but that tow truck did not arrive until dusk.
Okay.
Parked on the north side of Beulah Avenue during near the intersection of Lakeview. According to the tow truck worker William McMillan, the truck backed up to the abandoned car, and then McMillan got out. He said he was checking the license plate of the automobile a few minutes later when a man with a shotgun standing at the corner of Beulah and Lakeview shot him in the back.
Oh, shit.
An official chronology later placed the attack on McMillan at 8:25.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another man hiding in the bushes near the front of the truck fired. Shot McMillan inside.
Jeez, dude.
McMillan's co-worker still in the truck radioed for help at 8:28 p.m. According to McMillan, Ahmed Evans, armed with the carbine, walked on the sidewalk across the street and demanded to know if he was stealing cars. Does it look like I'm stealing cars? I'm a freaking city tow truck driver.
Work for a damn tow truck company. Do you think I'm out here stealing cars?
Right. McMillan stood and said, I have no weapons. All right. He ran toward and then north up to 123rd Street. And he said that Evans shot him in the right side.
Jeez.
An African-American woman on East 23rd Street gave refuge to McMillan.
Well, good for her.
Eyewitness testimony conflicted with some of these events, though. Residents on the street and others said that the two tow truck operators examined the abandoned vehicle for several minutes before shots were fired.
Who gives a shit how long they examined it for?
Contradicting McMillan's testimony that he was fired upon almost immediately after exiting the cab of his truck.
Time is irrelevant when
Right.
this shit, I mean, I guess it's not irrelevant because
Right.
I got to piece together the stuff, but when you're in the moment, I mean, you're not counting how much time it is.
How long was it after? He's like, I don't know, man. I was checking it.
It's like right away. I don't know.
Right.
Some residents also said that an African-American man approached the tow truck operators and argued with them briefly before departing. Federal government's official report on the Glenville shootout suggested that the tow truck was not a target of the new Libyans. Rather, it was inadvertently trapped in the crossfire between police and snipers.
I'd say so.
Evans later asserted that the tow truck was a ruse. He claimed police snipers were already in the area and targeting him and his followers for assassination. These snipers fired on Evans and his followers first, he says. He claimed he was nowhere near the tow truck when shots were fired. Instead, he said he had left his home and was walking west on Auburndale Avenue toward the Lakeview Tavern, which is a few feet around the corner. He said he heard shots coming from the end of the street and a man ran past me.
Okay, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
We'll see. Evans said he ran north to Beulah in the time to see the tow truck operator running toward 123rd. He said he heard submachine gun fire, and he said he assumed that this was the blast which killed Leroy Mansfield Williams.
Apparently Leroy Mansfield Williams dead.
Right. Evans admitted that he fired several shots from his carbine, but the weapon then jammed. He fled into the home at 1384 Lakeview Road. Several clearly marked Cleveland police cars arrived at the scene of the tow truck shooting about the same time that the second unmarked surveillance vehicle arrived. Then we got shitloads of popos. Police witnesses said that 3 men now stood on the 2 corners of Lakeview Road and Beulah Avenue, firing at the police cars. A 4th man, probably Leroy Mansfield Williams, known as Amir Ibir Katir, lay dying on the sidewalk. Poor guy. Later estimates placed the time of his death at around 9:26 p.m.
Okay. Well, most of that shootout occurred between 8:30 and 9:30, obviously. It was contained in a small area, barely 300 yards long,
Right.
on Lakeview, Beulah, and Auburndale Avenue. Lakeview Avenue is lined with residential homes with narrow passages between them.
Dang.
When the police broadcast for assistance was made at 8:30, it was an all-units broadcast.
Damn right it was.
Which allowed any available police vehicle to respond. Within minutes, the side streets were clogged with police cars, abandoned there as officers arrived at the scene and ran on foot to the firefight. Wow. The police response was chaotic. What is this, the Civil War?
All right.
Officers grabbed whatever weapon they could and raced to the scene. Nearly all abandoned their radios and their vehicles. Oh, geez. There was no law enforcement leadership present to control the police response either.
Oh, no.
You guys are just willy-nilly in it.
All right.
Whatever.
Jeez, OP. Gunfire centered around 4 locations. The tow truck, adjoining houses at 1391 and 1395 Lakeview, the Lakeview Tavern, and Ahmed Evans' apartment house at 12312 Auburndale. 3 marked police cars were first arrived on the scene at 8:30. 1 on Beulah Avenue and 2 at the intersection of Auburndale and Lakeview. Patrolmen Kenneth Gibbons and Willard Wolf were the first to arrive at the intersection of Lakeview and Auburndale around 8:30 p.m.
Okay.
They claimed to have observed a plainclothes officer grappling with a young African-American male in or near the front yard of Evans' home. As they exited their vehicle to assist, a rifle bullet struck the engine of their marked police car. Now they knew they were under fire.
There's 130. There's 130 different stories already.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a rifle bullet that struck the engine made the apparently the car explode because
Dang.
it killed Wolf and severely injured Gibbons.
Oh, shit.
Police Sergeant Sam Libby and Bill Moran arrived moments behind Gibbons and Wolf. They ran behind the duplexes at 1435 and 1439 Lakeview, used the alley to get behind the Lakeview Tavern. They then moved down the driveway between the tavern and the Evans home to reach Auburndale. At this point, Moran was shot and died behind a car parked on the street where he was shot again.
Dang.
Levy found safety under the car. Patrolman Joseph McManaman, Chester Zukowski were among the first uniformed officers to arrive at Beulah Avenue, approaching from the south on 123rd.
Dang.
Time of the arrival had been estimated at 8:30. As they pulled in front of the tow truck, gunfire struck their vehicle from the south.
Dang, so we got 2 dead popos, 1 injured.
Well, one dead, for
Cool.
sure.
So that one was murdered. What's his face? Bill Moran.
No, he just got
It's
shot.
shot. Okay. So we got 2 wounded and 1 dead. Dang.
Mhm.
As the men tried to escape out the driver's side door, Zukelski was hit. Severely injured, he crawled about 30 to 40 feet toward a home and waited for help.
Wow.
McManaman was lightly injured by bullet fragments. As more marked police cars arrived, the gunmen ran east, moving across Lakeview Road into a narrow alley that is something of an extension of Beulah Avenue. As the gunmen fled, they exchanged gunfire with other police who had just arrived, then turned south down the alley to get behind 1395 Lakeview Road. Sources differ as to what happened next.
Of course they do.
Police claim that the gunmen burst into the house and occupied the second floor. Mrs. Beatrice Flagg and her children living in an apartment on the first floor fell to the ground to avoid being hit when police fired into the building. Oh, jeez.
Morons.
As the police pumped tear gas canisters to the home, the family fled.
Jeez.
Wow, these guys didn't even care who was in these houses.
Not, apparently. The police also claim that the gunmen surprised Reverend Henry L. Perryman's wife, who fled with their 9-month-old son as the armed men seized her second-floor apartment. Right, they just ran in random people's houses.
Damn right they did.
Police then occupied the first floor of that apartment and used it as a base from which they could fire at the gunman at, oh no. So it must have been either next door, probably across the street, right?
Mm-hmm.
1391 they occupied so they could fire at 1395.
Jeez, so Pete.
But Miss Perryman denied that any gunmen burst in on her.
You ain't kidding, all right?
She and Miss Flagg claimed they received no warning before police began firing guns at their homes and launching tear gas.
Goodness, that's ridiculous.
Later press report gave a third version of events,
Oh, of
saying the
course.
police ordered the apartments evacuated.
Oh, don't ever believe the press reports.
After the Flaggs and Perrymans fled, that's when gunmen burst into the building and occupied the second floor.
Okay, I seriously doubt that.
Right.
8:35 p.m. Patrolman Luis E. Galanca attempted to navigate the narrow passage between 1391 and 1395 Lakeville.
Oh, jeez.
Shot and moited.
Well, why don't go down a damn place you have no exit out of.
5 minutes later, police firing into the alley from the rear windows of 1391 Lakeview killed Sidney Curtis Taylor, known as Malik Ali Bey. 8:45 p.m. Bernard Donald, also known as Nandu Bey, stood up out of some bushes behind 1395 Lakeview and fired at police in the passage between 1391 and 1395. A patrolman kicked up Galanca's shotgun and murdered Donald. Well, not murdered, they killed him.
Justifiably.
Yes.
Maybe.
Well, it's a casualty of war, maybe.
Yep. Lieutenant Leroy C. Jones and his partner arrived at the scene about 8:40, driving south on 124th. They parked and Jones ran around the corner onto Auburndale. Heavy gunfire rang out and Jones fell dead in the middle of the street. Jeez, dude. About 8:45, lying on the sidewalk to the north side of the street. Patrolman Angelo Santa Maria and Steve Sopko approached the scene from Auburndale about the time Jones died, but the number of abandoned police vehicles forced him to park 2 blocks away.
Holy shit.
Santa Maria ran behind the houses on the south side of Auburndale and spotted Jones lying on the sidewalk. Shouting to police hiding behind various types of cover on the north side of the street, he learned that it was Lieutenant Jones.
Oh, no, not Lieutenant. Lieutenant Jones.
Santa Maria asked for a volunteer among the many African-American bystanders to drive a car along Auburndale, provide him with cover so he could retrieve Jones. Yeah, hey, random civilian, put yourself in harm's way.
Dude, this has to be more than that bank robbery in California.
As far as people died, yeah, nobody died in the bank robbery, I don't think, besides the 2 suspects. No cops died or nothing.
Right. This is crazy shit going on here. And also,
this is just the middle of a damn residential block, dude.
And also a bunch of stupid cops that don't know how to gather up, and they're just out there.
Like they've never done it before.
Right.
They probably haven't.
Nope. No, you're right. Not legally.
Right.
22-year-old clerk, James E. Chapman, agreed to help.
Good for him, young fella.
According to a federal government report, Chapman's car could not get close enough to Jones due to the large number of abandoned vehicles, police and civilians on Auburndale.
Mm-hmm.
Both men got out of the car and tried to retrieve Jones. Santa Maria found cover next to a police sergeant who had a submachine gun.
Oh.
Throwing a smoke bomb to provide cover, Santa Maria ran to get Jones while the sergeant opened fire with a submachine gun. Santa Maria was shot in the back at 9 o'clock. Patrolman Steve Marinke later retrieved him and put him in an abandoned police car for safety. Chapman was shot in the head about the same time that Santa Maria was shot and died instantly. Holy shit. That dude just went to...
was just a friendly civilian,
It was the clerk. He was selling cigarettes and alcohol to people earlier, and now he's dead.
Wow.
With a head wound.
Well, Lieutenant Elmer Joseph drove north on Lakeview Road and reached the intersection of Lakeview and Auburndale about 8:45, about the time Warren and Levy came under fire. He was shot as he exited his vehicle, but managed to get to cover.
Jeez, oh, Pete.
50-year-old resident Henry Orange was wounded by gunfire about the same location and time as was Patrol Richard Hart. Hart fell in the street on Auburndale and was shot several more times by a sniper standing in a dark doorway. Leonard Zelkowicz was shot and wounded at 8:55 while attempting to push an abandoned police vehicle off the street of Lakeview.
Why? Who cares about the
Trying to probably get...
Well, you know what? These idiots shouldn't just came in and just abandoned their vehicles. Jeez, oh, Pete, guys. Wow. Something's fishy about all this still.
It doesn't make any sense.
Sometime around 9:15 p.m., police officers burst into Lakeview Tavern, ordered the 10 staff and customers to lie on the floor. These guys are still in there just drinking away.
Why not, man?
I guess. More police burst into the bar and forced the 7 men and 3 women into the basement. The officers fired repeatedly into the ceiling, shot tear gas into the basement floor, locking the staff and customers in.
For what? They think these guys are like part of a group or something?
Or somebody was on a roof or some shit. Then they say there were snipers. I thought the police were snipers.
No, there's other snipers too. They put the staff in the basement and the people in the basement, but then threw tear gas into the basement.
Right. What the hell is going on?
What the hell are they doing that for?
Eyewitnesses said John Pegues, Pegues, a tavern patron, was shot in the leg by police at this time.
Jeez.
Which an official chronology later said occurred at 9:30.
Wow.
Not 9:15. Patrolman Anthony Shabinsky. Hey, what's up with all these Polish guys, man?
That's Cleveland, man.
I thought they were in the Italian area.
Right.
Who rushed the second floor to fire at snipers from the second floor window, was shot and wounded by return fire at the same time. Wow. The bar staff and patrons were not released from the basement until 10:15 p.m. Jeez, a whole hour after the freaking...
All the individuals were roughly handled by police, with most of the men being pistol whipped.
Oh, jeez.
All 10 were taken to the 5th District Police Station and locked up. Pegues was not given medical attention until 5 a.m.
Why would...
Shot in the leg.
Jeez.
Not given medical attention. Well, about 9:30 p.m., Patrolman Thomas Smith and Ernest Rowell attempted to help Sergeant Sam Levy, who was pinned down by sniper fire near the car where he'd first been shot. Both men were shot and wounded trying to pick him up.
Oh, jeez.
About an hour later, another police officer accidentally set off a tear gas grenade nearby. Under the cover of the cloud, Patrolman William Train and James Huron rushed out with wheeled stretchers to retrieve Levy and Smith.
Yeah, I guess it.
Other police also helped, and the two were wheeled to a nearby ambulance.
Yeah, I guess that was a good thing that accidentally happened. I would have said I did it on purpose.
Yeah, I did it on purpose, trying to get him out.
No, man, I was just thinking. By 9:45 p.m., the shooting on Auburndale had ended. News media reported that 17 men and women were arrested at 12312 and 12314 Auburndale. But Evans was not among them.
Wow.
No dead or wounded were found in either house, and only 4 rifles. A 5th rifle was retrieved from a nearby automobile. Police initially charged only 3 people, John Hardrick, age 17.
17?
Leslie Jackson, also known as Osube, age 16.
16.
Alfred Thomas, age 18. They always have the kids doing their work for them, man. Of all who were found at 12314 Auburndale, the home next to Evans, all three admitted to having fired their rifles.
Jeez, dude. The gun battle raging around 1395 Lakeview continued, however.
Oh, jeez.
Gunmen fired wildly in all directions from the upper floor windows. According to the police, at one point, a gunman stepped out of the house into the narrow passageway between 1395 and 1391 Lakeview, fired a few random shots, and went back inside.
Okay.
When he appeared at a kitchen window a few minutes later, police shot and apparently killed him, ending gunfire from the first floor of the structure. 11 p.m., a police dispatcher advised all police in the area that a man at 1384 Lakeview wished to surrender to African-American police. No one responded.
Oh.
I said, fuck him.
Right.
Pretty much,
There's
right?
no surrendering now. We're past that, boys.
Yup.
Lock and load.
Wait, 1395, is that where he is? Nope.
1384. About midnight, the police stormed 1395 Lakeview. They were able to get inside, but a locked and barricaded door prevented them from reaching the second floor. Police also say they saw a body lying on the kitchen floor. Shortly afterward, the house caught fire.
Jeez.
The cause of the fire was never determined. And the Cleveland Fire Department did not fight the blaze. Since it was
He ain't
believed,
sending no damn fire department in there.
right, since it was believed that firefighters would come under attack. You know they would. Police observers later said they heard the names Omar and Ali shouted from within the home. 1391 Lakeview Road also caught fire. Both homes burned to the ground. Oh, jeez. That makes it even worse. They're like, you guys just watch these houses burn.
Right. As the fires raged, Councilman Forbes, Youth Director Beach, Harlell Jones, and others had gathered to try to talk to gunmen and bring calm to the neighborhood.
Right.
Jones, wanted to ensure no one was caught inside the burning buildings, went behind the structures and retrieved the bodies of Sidney Curtis Taylor and Bernard Donald, as well as Donald's wounded brother, Lathan Donald, also known as Nandu L. According to Jones and his two companions, two uniformed white policemen with their badges removed beat them in the passageway, telling them, leave that N-word to die. Well, not surprised if that happened.
These guys are Muslim, right?
Yeah. Black Liberation. Yeah, I mean, the names, they all changed their names to whatever. Islam, at least, right?
Islam, yeah. Well, whatever.
Yeah.
Party of Peace or whatever they are. Religion of Peace, I see. 12:24 a.m., July 24th.
Hey.
Oh, geez. Police dispatcher again issued a broadcast that a man at 1384 Lakeview wishes to surrender to black officers.
Could be a trap, though. You don't want to lure them into there. 3
white policemen went to the home. Oh, jeez.
Oh.
The man identified himself as Ahmad Evans, peacefully surrendered. He's like, well, you'll do. 11 p.m. and 12:24 p.m. police broadcasts were the only time 1384 Lakeview had been mentioned by any police officer over the radio during that evening.
Okay.
Evans was unarmed when apprehended.
Of course he was.
His jammed carbine was found in the bushes in front of the building where he was found.
Well, you probably don't want to do that.
No bodies were ever found inside either 1391 or 1395 Lakeville.
That was the ones that burned down.
Right.
So apparently nobody was in them, huh? In addition to the 7 deaths, 15 people, including police, the new Libyans, and bystanders, were injured in the shootout. It's possible that many more injured people, including gunmen, never sought treatment, probably for their injuries, and thus were never recorded. Some gunmen may have died and some borne away by friends, and it is probable that several snipers escaped. Well, obviously.
Most likely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crowds began to gather on Superior Avenue.
Oh, yeah, they did.
Major city thoroughfare 2 blocks north of the gun battle. Almost as soon as the shooting started. Oh, geez.
They're just out there.
Right. As police vehicles began racing down Superior Avenue to reach 120th and 123rd Street, Lakeview Road, and 124th Street, the crowd began throwing rocks at police and jeering them.
So it begins.
9:15 p.m., Mayor Stokes called Ohio Governor Jim Rhodes. He's like, we got an issue here, boys. We're about to have a riot on our hands. The governor called Major General Sylvester Del Corso, Adjutant General of the Ohio Army National Guard, and had the National Guard placed on alert.
Like, get ready, boys.
9:30 p.m. The crowd numbered close to 1,000.
Jeez.
Mostly young adult, teenage, pre-adolescent African-American males. About this time, Glenville riots have began.
Yes, sir. Well, as usual with riots, a Molotov cocktail hit a marked police vehicle, causing it to burst into flames. Commercial panel truck driving down Superior Avenue was stopped by the crowd. The white driver brutally beaten, and the truck overturned and set afire.
Oh, man.
A black Cleveland police officer, Herbert Reed, was pulled from his vehicle and savagely beaten.
Dang.
2 television news vehicles were also set afire.
Dang.
Mayor Stokes went on television to inform the public about the shootout and potential riot.
Right.
He taped a brief message at WKYC-TV telling people about the gunfight and asked them to stay out of the area and remain at home.
Right.
Mayor's message was broadcast shortly before 11 on all local television stations.
A little late.
Most Clevelanders learned of the incident after the mayor's message interrupted a baseball game between the Indians and Orioles.
Oh, jeez.
And they were probably pissed. What the hell is this motherfucker want in an Indians game?
Jeez, Pete. Wow. And racist rednecks would be like, let them kill themselves.
I know. Now you got all the racist white people coming out, too, to go engage with these guys. It's about to be all hell breaking loose. Dude.
Right. Oh, jeez. As they had done during the Ho or Hugh or Huff riots. I don't know how you say it.
One of the three. Houjh.
Right.
I think it's Huff, though.
Cleveland police withdrew from the area and formed a perimeter cordon.
Yeah. You got to, right. Just set up an area you're not going past.
The mob moved west
Didn't
almost
they do that
1
in these
mile
last
along.
riots? They were like guarding the rich neighborhoods and shit.
Right. The mob moved west almost 1 mile along Superior Road Avenue, looting stores
Of course.
and burning shit, breaking windows and all kinds of damage, and pissing on the fucking ground or shitting or something. Who knows? An entire block of buildings at East 105th Street in Superior burned to the ground.
Probably all black owned, too, by the way.
Yep. Rioters also moved 1 mile north, reaching St. Clair Avenue. Small bands of rioters and arsonists moved into Huff as far west as 55th Street. About midnight, Mayor Stokes formally requested National Guard assistance in quelling the riot. We need to stop this shit.
Your help, Guardsmen.
More than 4,000 Guardsmen mobilized and 1,500 were sent to Cleveland that night.
Get out there, boys. Through the early morning of July 24th, area firefighters attempted to respond to blazes, but were pelted with rocks and bottles.
Right, don't even mess with them.
They then stopped responding unless given a police escort.
Right.
During the night, fire departments responded to 15 fires set by vandals, as well as several false alarms and a handful of non-riot related fires. Right, because at the same time, you got legitimate shit going on.
At the same time, people are falling asleep with their chicken nuggets
and shit.
Right.
3 a.m., about 200 Army National Guardsmen from Ohio, assisted by 24 police officers, began patrolling Glenville. So 224. Got 1,000 plus rioters out there.
Right.
During the night, 28 African Americans were arrested, 3/4 of them for looting.
Of course.
According to eyewitnesses, about midnight, 2 white men in an automobile shot at 3 young black men waiting for a bus at East 79th and St. Clair Avenue.
So they shoot at the ones not doing anything.
Right. 22-year-old Clifford Miller was hit in the head and died.
Oh, jeez. Poor Clifford Miller.
30-year-old African-American security guard James C. Haynes was found dead from multiple shotgun wounds behind a building at 8203 Superior Avenue shortly after midnight. He may have been killed by police.
Well, where do they get this may have been from?
They don't know.
8:30 a.m., 24th of July, Stokes met with 100 African-American civic leaders at City Hall to discuss ways to prevent the violence from flaring up again. It's like, we do not need another night of violence. The city is already...
It's already on its knees, crippled.
Come on now, what can we do? Although no consensus for action emerged, most of the attendees felt that the continued police presence would merely inflame tensions.
Hey, just let them go run roughshed over the neighborhood. Fuck it, right?
Right. And a few felt that a curfew would do little except build resentment while not preventing outsiders from coming into the area to make trouble. You got to do something. Jeez. Early in the afternoon, a group of about 20 African-American civic leaders, most but not all militants, suggested to Stokes that black community to be allowed to try to quell the violence on their own. They let us talk to these mofos.
Let's talk. Maybe they'll listen to us.
Right. Some of us they look up to.
I don't know. That Evans guy wanted to kill a bunch of black people, so black people in power. So
true.
Who knows?
A similar strategy had been proposed by a handful of black leaders during the night and at the 8:30 a.m. meeting.
At a meeting with Councilman Forbes and others held about 3 p.m., Stokes discussed this plan. There was general agreement to try it, although General Del Corso was skeptical that it would succeed. During the day, there were scattered reports of looting and the hawkings of stolen goods, to which Cleveland police responded. Why? Although a temporary ban on the sale of liquor had been imposed throughout Cuyahoga County, sometime during the night, a few bars in the cordoned area were fined and closed for violating the ban. 4:15 p.m., Stokes announced his plan for handling the riots. The area encompassed by Euclid Avenue, East 55th Street, Superior Avenue, Rockefeller Park, St. Clair Avenue, and the Cleveland-East Cleveland border would be cordoned off at 7 p.m.
Okay.
Nobody in, nobody out.
All right. National Guard and unit police officers would patrol the perimeter. A normal police patrol consisting of 125 African-American patrolmen would roam the interior of the area.
All right.
Another 109 representatives of local African-American civic and neighborhood groups, assisted by 500 African-American volunteers, would assist the police in keeping the area calm.
All right. I got some numbers behind them now.
Right.
All right.
This group of volunteers was called the Mayor's Committee. No, ain't that nice. Non-resident whites would be refused entry to the area, as would white news media. I mean, get them all out.
Yeah.
Overnight, roving bands of youth set 10 fires and engaged in sporadic looting. Civilian patrols were unable to control the looting, which as much was done by young adults and teenagers, some as young as 10. Oh, wow. Against Mayor Stokes' direct orders, several white police officers and National Guardsmen violated the cordon during the night and responded to the reports of looting. Yeah, come on. They're like, we just can't let these guys
just stand by and let this happen.
Screw that mayor.
Right. And I'm sure there was an N-word thrown in there. Right. This created such a tense situation at a furniture store at East 123rd in St. Clair that law director Buddy James had to race to the scene and intervene.
Oh, man.
White Cleveland police were deeply embittered by Stokes' decision to keep them out of the affected area. Of course they were. When a plea for an ambulance for a heart attack victim came in, an anonymous policeman said over the police radio, white or N-word, send the mayor's committee. When a child in the cordoned-off area fell from a second-floor balcony, an anonymous policeman radioed, tell the mayor's committee to handle it.
Oh, jeez.
Taking it out on the civilians.
Wow, I know, right?
When a police dispatcher asked for police to respond to a fire, an anonymous policeman, how are they not anonymous? You don't know their radio?
Get out of here.
Anonymous policeman radioed, tell the mayor to go piss on it. Jeez. Repeatedly, when asked to do their duty, anonymous policeman would radio back, fuck that N-word mayor.
Oh, jeez. Dude. Fuck that nasty mayor.
Nasty.
Jeez. When police at 5th District headquarters, which encompassed the affected area, were told that they could not carry rifles while patrolling the perimeter, those police present responded in flurry of curses and epithets. Why would I not carry rifles? So you tell me I'm going to go there unarmed? Are you out of your mind?
Jeez, carry your sidearm.
Right. And these guys all were expressing their displeasure at Stokes. The anger at Stokes lasted throughout the evening, creating great tension at the 5th District. Oh, yeah, you know that. At a press conference on the morning of 25th of July, Mayor Stokes announced that 36 stores had been looted and 13 looters arrested, nearly all of them teenagers. And he said that happened just during last night. And no persons had been shot or seriously injured. I'm proud to say, though. Nobody shot or severely injured.
Got a couple of injuries, but nothing severe. Regular public transit service and trash pickup through the cordon area has resumed the morning of July 25th. The city demolition crews began tearing down the most severely affected and unsafe burned buildings.
Right.
Early on the morning of July 25th, Stokes met with African-American civic leaders who had participated in the mayor's committee effort. For the most part, only militant groups had participated in the peace patrols.
Right.
Moderate neighborhood leaders like pastors had largely stayed home.
Yeah, they're done.
Like, nah. And the militants and some other African-American civic leaders deeply resented the lack of participation by moderates.
Right.
So they're like, you know what? No, I don't want nothing to do with this.
Like, how you expect anything to happen if nobody stands up and talks about, nobody stands up and defends themselves, or you got to have a voice. That's the only thing I can say about these nationalists. They at least got their voices heard.
Well, unconventional methods that probably, I mean,
but these militants guys, they were all.
Some would argue that
they were willing to have meetings and all that.
Well, those guys, but not the militants of the group that's doing this, though.
No. What I'm saying, most of the African American leaders, though, they're like, let's talk. Let's see what we can do. You want to know why this is happening? I can tell you why, but are you going to listen? Mm-hmm. Fat chance on that there, Kaczynski. There was general agreement that mayor's committee had been only partially effective, and a curfew was discussed. How are you going to enforce it if you can't even stop looting? Right. While the group debated, Stokes left the room and held a press conference at which he announced National Guard would once more patrol Glenville's streets. The mayor's announcement left many African-American leaders feeling betrayed. Other black officials and white business owners criticized Stokes for using the mayor's committee patrols in the first place, which they viewed as a complete failure. It didn't work. This guy doesn't know what he's doing.
What are they called? Peace officers now?
Right. After the mayor's announcement, 400 National Guardsmen moved into the cordon off area and began patrolling again. More than 3,100 National Guardsmen were now in Cleveland.
Wow. Well, the National Guard responded to sporadic reports of looting during the day while police enforced the liquor ban. About 6:30 p.m., Stokes announced he was imposing a curfew in the area from 9 to 6:30 a.m. 9 p.m., that is. The National Guard.
Liquor ban.
Well, yeah, it can make things worse, man. Can people all boozed up running the streets? National Guard would continue to patrol inside the restricted zone, and the ban on white police patrols was lifted. Several local African-American leaders and volunteers also agreed to assist by roaming the affected area.
We're just going to
roam.
Right.
More than 2,100 National Guardsmen patrolled Glenville during the night of July 25th to the 26th. No additional deaths occurred, although there was still looting.
Right.
Major fire erupted on East 55th Street, and 4 minor arsonist fires were put out near the eastern end of Superior Avenue. 30 people were arrested, 1 for arson, 2 for looting, the rest for curfew. After a ban of 100 youths formed in the Lee Miles neighborhood far from Glenville, the National Guard was sent there to disperse.
Right.
They said, get the hell out of here.
Yeah, I mean, you can have 130-year-olds. You know, they're somewhat reasonable. You get 115 to
right. Those are the ones. Like, F you.
Right. And that's when it gets a little sticky area there. Cuyahoga County lifted the ban on alcohol sales outside of Cleveland on the morning of July 26th.
Oh, wait, the whole county was dry just because of Cleveland.
Right. Mayor Stokes announced that the curfew that night would begin at midnight to allow the public to attend a Cleveland Indians home baseball game.
Look at that. I got to get that revenue, though. Got to get that revenue.
You guys stop. In the afternoon, 35 police officers, 100 National Guardsmen surrounded the Esquire Hotel at 10602 Superior Avenue after police received a tip that several gunmen from the July 23rd, 24th shootout were hiding there.
Oh.
No gunmen were found.
Of course.
National Guard continued to patrol Glenville during the night of July 26th through the morning of the 27th. Police arrested Harlell Jones and a group of his followers late on the 26th at the Afro Set headquarters at 8127 Superior Avenue. So why would you even be at I wouldn't even go there.
After claiming to find brass knuckles on him, they searched his automobile without a search warrant and claimed to find a .38 caliber revolver. Mayor Stokes arrived as Jones was being arrested. Police later changed the report and said brass knuckles were found in Jones's vehicle. What? Court threw out the case because the search was an unconstitutional violation of the Fourth Amendment. You can't just go searching shit, man. Illegal search and seizure, I believe they call that. After Jones was taken to a local police precinct for booking and Stokes had left, eyewitnesses said police vandalized the group's offices. A few other incidents occurred during the night of 26-27.
Which I believe they did. Of course. The ban on alcohol sales in Cleveland was lifted on the morning of 27th July.
That night, didn't they?
The National Guard were withdrawn. Cleveland police were returned to their normal shifts and patrol patterns. And the curfew was lifted. It's like nothing ever happened. All right. All right, Farmer boys.
It's like it's like when you get your stars taken away from Grand Theft Auto. Everybody just the like you put the code in. It's like 6 stars, and then the police just drive away.
Everybody stops running. Nice. The riots cost local business $2.6 million, which is $20 million in 2021. Wow. The damage was far more widespread than much better known Huff riots. Right. On the morning of 27th July, the media reported that Evans had received $6,000 grant from Mayor's Cleveland Now Redevelopment Fund, and that he had used a portion of his money to buy weapons.
Of course.
I mean, what are you going to do? The revelations during the riots that Evans had used Cleveland Now funds to purchase weapons ended political and business support for Mayor Stokes' redevelopment campaign.
Oh, yeah. They were like, no.
Yeah, like, see.
I'm willing to bet that it also ended his re-election chances as well.
I would hope so.
Yeah. One more serious incident violence occurred at 2:30 a.m. on July 28th. African-American youth got into an altercation with a security guard at the Haddam Hotel at East 107 and Euclid Avenue. Crowd gathered with black youth urging the crowd to riot. I mean, come on, guys.
Come on, idiots.
Well, Cleveland police said nope. They responded in force.
Not again.
And a police riot broke out.
Oh, shit.
NBC News photographers Julius Burrows and Charles Ray were brutally beaten by a large number of police when they attempted to film and photograph the incident. Wow. Law Director Buddy James and Councilman George Forbes rushed to the 5th District Police Headquarters, where James witnessed disturbing signs that the police intended harm toward the 2 men who had been fingerprinted in jail.
You know they did. I think the police were like, no, we're sick of this shit. We're taking over at all costs. Jeez, oh, Pete. African-American policemen accompanying James and Forbes quietly told them that African-Americans were being brutally beaten in the station's parking garage. James demanded treatment for Burrows. After examination at Lakeside Hospital, Burrows was given pain medication. Okay. Take a couple aspirin, bud. Walk it off. Dissatisfied, James ordered Burrows transferred to the Metropolitan General Hospital.
Right.
This transfer was aborted by NBC attorneys while it was in process. Wow. And Burrows was returned to the Lakeside Hospital, where he received no medical care for several hours. James demanded that Burrows be released, but the Cleveland police delayed doing so repeatedly. Wow, that's pretty messed up there.
Why did the NBC attorneys refuse him to go to the other hospital? They're like, no, that one's too expensive.
Hell no, keep him there.
NBC. When Burrows finally remanded into James' custody and examined near dawn at Lutheran Hospital. He was found to have broken ribs, ruptured spleen, a fractured back, a broken tooth, and extensive cuts and abrasions.
Hey, they were just give him some Tylenol and say, roll out, boys.
Medication said, take it. Boros was charged with assaulting an officer. He was swiftly acquitted in January of 1970.
Nice.
Cleveland police declined to investigate the police riot at the Haddam Hotel. Of course, the attacks on Boros and Ray, the lack of medical treatment given to Boros, or the insubordination shown to James.
Oh, jeez, oh, Pete.
Of course they did.
Yeah, they're like, we ain't looking at none of that shit. Evans was indicted August 1968 for the murders of Leroy C. Jones, Louis E. Galanka, Willard J. Wolfe, and James E. Chapman. The charges related also to kill by shooting, an easier charge to prove.
Right. Murder, you got to show like intent and shit like that, right?
Kill by shooting, there it is. The prosecution's case rested on state laws, which said that the conspirator is guilty of the crimes which his co-conspirators commit. Wow. The prosecution's case was largely circumstantial, but after deliberating for 2 days, the jury returned a verdict of guilty on all accounts.
Sure they did.
On the 12th of May, 1969. Evans was sentenced to death by electric chair.
Well,
Evans was incarcerated at Lucasville Correctional Facility and appealed his conviction. His execution was stayed while he appealed, of course.
I'm sure
no, we're going to continue on with this.
I'm sure the whole thing, capital punishment, got repealed, which is about to be. Right. Well, his appeal was pending. The United States Supreme Court placed a moratorium on all capital punishment in the United States in its ruling in Furman versus Georgia.
Oh.
Evans' conviction was commuted to life, and he spent the remainder of his life at Lucasville.
Okay.
He was diagnosed with cancer in 1977 and died on February 25th of 1978 at Riverside Methodist Hospital in Columbus, Ohio.
He spent 9 years in prison.
9 years in prison. Got off easy. Should just fried him.
Yep. Wow. Lathan L. Donald, age 19. Alfred Thomas, age 18. John Hardrick, age 17. Leslie Jackson, age 16, were each indicted on August 25th, 1968. 7 counts of first-degree murder, 11 counts of shooting to wound, and possession. Why would else
shooting to wound? Is that even a charge anymore?
No, I don't think so. And possession of a machine gun. Just one. Who got the charge of it?
Well, they all were charged with it.
All right. Donald and Hardrick were also charged with possession of illegal narcotics.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't be shooting people with drugs.
Yeah, forgot about that. You had the J for later, huh?
Right. Well,
the aftermoida J.
Weed's not a narcotic.
Oh, it is.
Is it?
Hardrick and Thomas were detained in the Cleveland City Jail after their arrest. After a psychiatric hearing, Alfred Thomas was judged insane and unable to stand trial. Okay. He was committed to the Lima State Hospital for criminally insane.
Whatever.
So he got all easy.
After 3.5 days of deliberation, a jury convicted Lathan Daniel on August 18, 1969 of 3 counts of first-degree murder by conspiracy and 4 counts of second-degree murder by conspiracy. After considering a plea for mercy, the jury granted the plea. Donald was sentenced to 7 consecutive terms in prison without the possibility of parole.
Right.
A sentence that meant he would spend a minimum of 110 years in prison. Minimum. Leslie Jackson appealed his indictment.
He'd be 126 years old when he gets out.
It's possible. His attorneys argued that under Ohio law, a juvenile court was required to find a juvenile delinquent as well as determine that the juvenile could not be rehabilitated under the juvenile justice system.
Right.
Before that juvenile could be turned over to the court of common pleas for indictment as an adult.
Right. And sometimes they don't do that.
Yeah.
So no charges.
Right. Well, charges until he's 18.
Right. Wow. His case went to the Supreme Court of Ohio, which in 1970 notified all indictments against him.
Wow.
The ruling had the effect of nullifying Hardwick's indictments as well.
Wow.
Hardwick and Jackson were then charged with delinquency for wounding Lieutenant Elmer Joseph during the shootout. Delinquent for wounding him. Assistant Cuyahoga County Prosecutor Charles R. Laurie declined to have the pair reindicted by the Court of Common Pleas, as the two were not ringleaders. And besides, many key witnesses are no longer available. Oh, wow. After hearing evidence that a rifle used by the two was employed to wound Lieutenant Joseph, Cuyahoga County Juvenile Court Judge Walter G. Whitlatch sentenced Hardrick and Jackson to Mansfield Youth Center in Mansfield, Ohio. Both individuals were to be released on their 21st birthday.
Jeez, dude.
Probably a good thing for him.
The convictions of Hardrick and Jackson were the last legal actions taken against any individual charged in the Glenville shootout.
Okay.
1971, 8 Cleveland police officers and tow truck worker William McMillan sued the city of Cleveland for $8.8 million, arguing that the Stokes administration had negligently paid money to black militants, which led directly to their injuries, which they did.
Yes.
After more than 6 years, during which several judges oversaw the case, Common Pleas Judge John C. Bacon ordered the case to trial.
You know what?
Take that shit to trial,
Look,
bitch.
I will
Take
see
that
this.
shit to trial.
I will see this case.
The 18, bring back dope. Remember that song? After the plaintiffs had finished presenting their case for 3 weeks, Judge Bacon dismissed the suit.
He was like, nah,
Oh, no.
mistake.
Finding that the plaintiffs had offered no evidence showing that Stokes or the Cleveland now trustees knew that payments were going to Evans or other black nationalists.
Right.
That doesn't matter.
Right.
It happens.
It was negligence. White police on the Cleveland force reacted bitterly towards Stokes after the Glenville shootout,
Yeah, I bet.
blaming him for supporting radicals like Evans and for providing him with the funds to arm himself. Police began anonymously taunting Stokes and hurling racial epithets at him over police radios. Yeah.
Jeez.
At a police union meeting on the 1st of August, 600 police voted overwhelmingly to demand the resignation of the public safety director, James McManaman, just because of his last name.
Right.
In an attempt to turn the police department around, Stokes agreed on September 1968 to establish Cleveland's first SWAT unit. He was like, "You guys want a SWAT team? Hell yeah!
Hell yeah. Can we get one of those sweet vehicles? Hell yeah.
Sweet." So that the police could deal with situations like Glenville shootout in which there was heavy gunfire and entrenched gunmen.
Yeah.
He also agreed to hire 500 new police officers, purchase 164 new patrol cars, and establish a police training academy.
Hey, you probably should have that before.
Right.
Anyways.
One thing we're missing is a training academy.
The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, also known as the NAACP, began urging African Americans to apply for the new positions, and Police Chief Blackwell agreed to racially integrate all police patrols in the Glenville neighborhood. Wait, so you had only white and black departments?
I guess.
October 9th, Stokes dismissed Police Chief Michael J. Blackwell for being unable to improve morale in the force and rein in the racial tension, and announced a $17 million overhaul of the police department. Patrick L. Garrity, a 48-year-old police deputy inspector, was named chief of the police.
All politics there.
And
Police Chief Michael J. Blackwell could do nothing anyway, even if he wanted to improve morale. It was Stokes who stoked the flames anyway.
Yeah, that Stokes guy, all out anarchy as soon as police arrived on the scene. No structure whatsoever. None. Firing into civilians' houses.
Blocking roadways with abandoned
roadways.
Vehicles.
I mean,
idiots.
Stupid. Not even taking their radios out of their cars. So
Right.
They have no form of communication with each other.
So stupid. Man.
Jeez. I can't believe that the suit didn't go by for against the mayor.
Right. Should have.
Didn't matter if they knowingly did it. The damn money went to them. So
the whole thing should have been rehauled. It should have been Cleveland shut down for a couple months and like a new government come in.
Well, it didn't matter.
Jeez, OP.
It didn't matter if they knowingly supplied funds to the militants. The fact is, the funds that the militants got were from their little program and resulted directly into what happened.
Resulted directly. Definitely was.
Crazy
I still would never understand. I mean, people were like, you don't get the racial tension and the looting and why? I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Well, because you got the people that actually want change.
Right.
And they're obviously voicing their displeasure.
Yeah, but they support that.
But then you also have the people that are taking advantage of the situation that are just low life pieces of shit anyways.
But they also support the looting and all that. You just don't understand the stuff we have to go through. So that's what they do. No. Well, stupid. You're going to end up looting and burning down this corner store that you go to every single day
in your neighborhood, right?
For the past 20 years, you go to every day. And then next morning you wake up, you're like, I'm about to go to Stowe and get me some ports in a quart. Oh, wait. Damn. Burned that shit down last night. Shit.
Gotta walk a couple blocks now. Damn it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I mean, it just don't make no sense. This don't make no sense.
Gets caught up in the moment.
And none of it gets rebuilt.
And we already know there's been multiple studies, not only studies, but instances where we see humans have a herd mentality. Right. They follow the leader.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody's doing something, they want to do it, and they're going to do it.
Yeah.
I was watching this video the other day. It was these group of runners, like joggers, and they were just running by this outdoor cafe. You know, they're just jogging along. There's probably like 10 of them. Immediately, all these people at the outside cafe see them running, and they all just fucking flip over their tables and start running after them. Nothing's going on. These people are literally just jogging. And these people are like freaked out, like following them.
There's another video I've seen where this lady, she was standing on the elevator just facing the back, like looking at her phone.
Yeah.
And then when everybody came on, they all just like looked at her and they're like, started slowly turning. And one person came on as a girl who stayed right, and she was looking at everybody.
Yeah, all the other ones.
She wanted to like
all the other ones turn around and look like the other. Yeah.
It was stupid.
The other one, she's like looking at her phone and
she's like, what the hell's going on?
What are you guys doing, you weirdos?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Herd mentality. If everybody's doing something, everybody else wants to do it.
Yeah, right.
Crazy stuff, though.
This is a crazy story here. And
well, that was a crazy one.
all right.
Good.
Yeah.
Good stuff there.
Crazy.
Yeah, that'll do it for us and the Glenville Shootout / Glenville Riots of 1968. And in the meantime, go check out our other series, Battles of the American Civil War. If you want some more, pretty much this was a civil war in 1968 that we just witnessed here. And
Right.
about 100 years late, well, yeah, a little over 100 years earlier, they're fighting it out in the trenches of Tennessee, Virginia, and all those surrounding areas.
Sure in hell were.
And we're in smack dab in the middle of, I think, June now. And really, these last couple episodes, just no significant, nothing really heavy going on in this particular time that we're in right now. But don't worry, we're coming up on some pretty major and bloody battles coming up in 62, especially 63 as well. That's Battles of the American Civil War and This Week in Sports History. Also on the Bang Dang Network, go look that up. You'll see them 2 shows plus a couple others that we do. We'll be back next week for, well, I guarantee what we have left, there's lots of people getting killed. So we'll be back for more blood and violence next week. We're the Mountain Michiganders with.
Bang dang.